Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Alive with PBG, or Plant-Based Gabriel. And today we have Plant-Based Mary A on. Plant-Based Mary A, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I thought this would be in the midst of everything that's going on, I've been doing my best to share as much positivity out there, to spread as much positivity as possible, because 30% of the world population is kind of shut in right now, and so we need them as much as we can. And you're doing a great job of it. And I think this would be a great talk, and a great interview for a lot of folks. And so, Mary, tell us about yourself. How long have you been plant-based, and what made you decide to make that transition?
So my name is Mary Allison. You can call me Mary A. I've been plant-based for a little over a year now. I started in January 2019. So the reason I went plant-based is really because I was having a lot of esophagus issues and digestive issues and terrible acid reflux. I would have to get my esophagus stretched like every year for about 5 years. It was awful and miserable. I would literally spit out my food. I was like, what is going on? The doctors couldn't figure it out. They put me on double doses of Nexium. We just didn't know what was happening. So I tried the Whole30 to see if that would help, because I knew it would be my diet that I needed to change. I never really ate super unhealthy, but I was eating kind of like the standard American diet, and then so after I was doing the Whole30, I saw an allergist, and she told me, she was like, okay, if the Whole30 doesn't work for you, she's like, you really need to go completely whole food, plant-based, and no oil. And at first, I honestly thought she was crazy. I was like, what? And so it took me a while to really get there. So I did the Whole30 for about a year, and then I went vegetarian. I already couldn't have gluten or dairy, so that was already out of my diet. So I was still eating a lot of eggs and still having issues, still eating the oils, still having issues. And then I finally was like, okay, I'm going to listen to my allergist and just go completely whole food, plant-based, no eggs, no oil, no animal products. And that's really the only thing that has truly helped me. I haven't had any issues. I reduced my Nexium. I'm still working with my doctor to figure out how to get completely off of that, but we're getting there. But I haven't had any other issues. No esophagus has to be stretched. So I love eating plant-based. This is the best way to live, I think.
That's incredible. It's funny you mentioned that you were doing what seemed like a lot, cutting out most of the animal products, or cutting out a lot of processed stuff, and still having a bunch of eggs. And I'm in multiple communities. We grow our own food here. We are minimalist, and there's a lot of homesteaders who get into homesteading, so to speak, to regain their health, and yet they focus on eating home raised meat and eggs, which is something we don't do, of course. But they do that, and then they just have the same amount of health problems as before, but they feel like they're doing something. It's just this crazy cycle. And so I certainly understand how that goes, and it's frustrating when you feel like you're doing so much, but you're not seeing that change. What did your diet look like previous to initially beginning this? You talk to these specialists, and they say, Mary, you need to change your diet. What did diet look like before you even started thinking that diet could help?
So I was eating, I guess this all started freshman year of college. And I was eating meat, I was eating dairy, I was still eating processed foods. But I would be mindful of it, but I would still eat the unhealthy processed foods, and I would eat meat, and I loved ice cream. So I ate a lot of that. And so they were cut out all the greasy foods, which I never really ate just a whole lot of greasy foods. It was more just meat and dairy that I was consuming that I personally think was my issue. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I cut out the greasy foods. I cut out the gluten. I slowly cut out the dairy because that one was hard for me. But I finally got there. And so that's kind of what my diet looked like. And then once they said to change it, I did. So there were no greasy foods, and was still eating meat though. Still eating eggs.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know, I think a lot of people push that the Whole30 type of idea, thinking that it's a step for a lot of people, and some doctors, you know, believe that that's the way to go. But many understand that it's more of a step, and it seems like it was a step for you. It got you at least introduced to it, and it's funny because we all think, you know, just back when I was eating the standard American fare, right? I was 100 pounds heavier. I was a college football player, and looking back now, it's like, oh my gosh, I was eating horribly, you know, but back then you think, oh no, I eat pretty healthy. Yeah, I don't eat too much processed food, not too much grease, just you know, just this and that. It's like, but now you think about the way we both eat to right. say is, well, that's a complete 360. It might not have seemed very extreme then, but man, it was slowly killing us from the inside out. And that's 3 times a day at the end of our fork. And a lot of folks find themselves in that situation. And so you realize that diet is a way to regain your health, and you've done this. How quickly did you start noticing a change? So you've been plant-based for, you said, a little bit over a year now.
A little over a year.
And so how quick did you notice that change? And what did your doctors say when they started to realize that you were seeing those physical changes from your diet?
It was literally like 2 weeks into my diet that I had seen a difference. I was like, I feel like I can swallow more normally. I don't really have as much acid reflux. And I will say, when I started going completely whole food plant-based, I did start doing celery juice every morning. And I know there's not really medical research to prove that actually works, but I thought I'd try it. And so I guess both of those combined kind of like helped me a lot. My doctors were impressed. They were like, wow, that's awesome. Just keep it up. If you like, we don't want to have to stretch your throat if we don't have to. And I was like, yes, sure. I don't want you to have to. So
that's awesome. And you mentioned something that a lot of people get hung up on when they're adopting a plant-based diet or a whole foods plant-based diet. You said you cut out the oil, and you've got it on your website. You know, your recipes are they're all without oil. Am I correct on that? Yeah. So they're all without oil, right? Similar to myself. And but a lot of people get hung up on that and say, I could never cook without oil. I could never do this. So if I'm sitting at home and I'm someone who wants to adopt a plant-based diet or wants to regain my health or wants to stop having my esophagus stretched, how did you make that transition? Because going plant-based or vegan is a big step. But cutting out the oil, for us, it doesn't seem like that now. But in the beginning, that's a big deal. How did you make that transition? And how do you think people can make that transition even easier than you and I did?
Yes. So in the beginning, like I said, I kind of went vegetarian first. So I was still eating eggs and I still had oil. So then I cut out the eggs, and then I started slowly reducing the oil. And I looked up like forks over knives. I was like, okay, so how do they want us to cook with no oil? And eventually I just started either using water or chicken broth to like saute my vegetables. And sometimes like I don't even need to use the water or vegetable broth. So that was one way that I did it. And then for baking, because I love to bake, I would use like nut butter or applesauce or mashed banana instead of any type of oil. And so that helped me. But honestly, like going slow and starting to like reduce it little by little, that helped me completely just cut it out.
Right. Yeah. There's many ways to go about it. And I get asked a lot, should I cut it all out? Should I go cold turkey, or should I slowly transition away? And for me personally, I'm a person of extremes. And so I need to cut it out right away. I needed to do that because, you know, I used to be the person to sit down and eat a whole tub of ice cream before bed, not a bowl, a tub, right? And so for me, there has to be these parameters, and cutting out oil was important. But I know for some, it's to say, hey, try transitioning it out of sauteing, because it is very simple. It's very simple to saute without oil. Some vegetable broth or water, a couple tablespoons in there with your onions or garlic, and it's very easy. And baking, there's a lot of substitutes that can be done. And so there's a lot of ways to go about it. But the key is that every day you get a little bit better, and you're focusing on making that transition that plays such a big impact in our health. Now, Mary, there's a lot going on around us in the world, and we kind of just briefly mentioned it in the start, right? A huge portion of the world is shut in. We've got these isolations, and as someone who's a recipe developer, as someone who is in the kitchen, I'm sure a lot like I am, coming up with things and working on recipes, what are some tips, some habits, some really helpful ideas that you could give to our listeners that are maybe making the transition to a plant-based diet or have been eating a plant-based diet, but hey, they're just getting a little tired of rice and beans 3 times a day?
So one thing that I just discovered, one of my good friends told me about it. I was like, I am missing my fresh produce. And obviously they keep, I've ordered through Whole Foods, like on Amazon Prime, and like, I'll get it that way. But my friend was like, I'm a part of this CSA, which if you don't know, it's a community supported agriculture for those listening. And I think of it basically as a farmer's market that delivers to your house. So in Ohio, we have one, and it's a bunch of different local farms. And every week now, I get delivered a box of fresh produce, and that helps with my cooking and my recipe creating. I've been doing a lot of Buddha bowls and big salads with that as well, because I get a lot of different produce, and I'm like, what can I do with all this? So a lot of times I just keep it simple, and I'll just throw in a bunch of different vegetables all in a big bowl, and maybe air fry some tofu with no oil, of course. Awesome. So simple meals like that. Also, like the pantry staples, like canned tomatoes. I make tomato soup. I love any kind of like chickpea pasta, lentil pasta, and make my own marinara sauce out of the tomatoes that I have, maybe throw in some frozen vegetables. So also like the frozen food, that has been helpful for me too with frozen produce.
No, those are all very good, very similar, right? I had Chuck Underwood from Brand New Vegan on just not too long ago, and we're talking about what we're eating, and it's funny, you know, we get in these, we see you coming up with all these recipes. I'm coming up with all these recipes I have in the book or on my website, and Chuck has them on brandnewvegan.com. He's got all these various recipes, which are all great, and they all serve a purpose. But when it gets boiled down to times like these, and really most times in our lives, we're all busy people, we're all doing things. The majority of what we're eating on a whole food plant-based diet is simple meals built around, right, a few of our favorite starches with some fruits and some vegetables mixed in, some seasonings and spices. It becomes very basic, and there's a purpose for what we do. There's a purpose for having a recipe like you have on YouTube. If you haven't already, go check out Plant-Based Mary A on YouTube, and on Instagram it's Mary Allison. Mary
_Allison.
All right,
yeah.
so
it's
we're gonna
ALLYSON.
So if you're checking those out, I would highly recommend it. But Mary's got recipes, like I'm just looking here right now. She's got her banana nice cream. She's got, which is a simple recipe and one we have a lot. But things like air fried tofu and a lot of great recipes. But when it comes down to it, if you want to adopt a plant-based diet and you're wanting to do that once in a while, that's great. I mean, I've got my book here, and it's funny, I have people that ask, well, what are your favorite recipes? And I don't ever say my favorite recipes are necessarily a recipe. I just go to page 20, which is just how to cook the starches, how to cook the basics, which is kind of it's kind of a simple way to go about it. But really, that's where you find yourself in the kitchen most times, is just cooking the basics and finding easy ways to prepare them. Going on top of that, what are some appliances? We're all kind of in this space of trying to do with as little as possible, or we don't want to have to go to the grocery store every other day right now. We probably don't want to be cooking 24/7, or we want to keep things as minimal as possible while also, bettering our health and eating good. But what are some appliances that you find yourself using all the time that if I'm a new plant-based beginner, Mary, what should I be looking to get? What are some of those appliances that you just couldn't live without now?
Okay. I have a lot. This is bad. Okay.
Maybe we'll get less minimalist from Mary, but we'll get them all here.
Okay, here's my, I love my Vitamix. It's perfect for smoothies, and I love smoothies. You can even make soups and a bunch of different stuff in it. And then my food processor, my Cuisinart food processor, that's probably my all-time favorite because I make a lot of different like hummus, I make ranch, I make like the black bean brownies and like chickpea cookie dough and all kinds of stuff in there, homemade marinara in there. And then I also love my air fryer. But again, if you don't have an air fryer, like you can honestly just use your oven. So
what type of air fryer do you have?
I have a Crux.
Is that
spaceship.
Okay? It's one of the spaceship ones. All right. That's like I get asked 2 or 3 questions just nonstop all the time, and they're very simple ones. So it's like, well, what recipes are your favorite, and what air fryer should I get? Those are like the two biggest questions I get, and I'll just put my 2 cents in on air fryers. I am of the belief that and again, we're minimalist at our house, and so I never want to purchase an appliance that only serves one function. And that's kind of a rule that we have since we've gone minimalist. And so when it comes to things like an air fryer, I just can't get myself to go out and purchase $100, $200 air fryer that's going to sit on the counter, look like, just is going to be sitting on the counter and only serve one function. And so I do recommend folks look for air fryers that have multiple functions. There's a great ones like, I think, Breville has one. The Cuisinart TOA 60 is a good one, but they serve as like a toaster oven, a toaster, a broiler. They do a lot of different functions. So I would recommend going out and looking at different options, but air fryers are definitely helpful. When we got started on a plant-based diet, we didn't have Vitamix was like, whoa, we're not going to invest in something like that. So we used a Ninja blender for a long time. If you go back on my recipes, my YouTube video recipes, they're all using a Ninja blender, a Ninja food processor, and it served us great. And when I was doing the book, I needed something to do a lot more work, like more of a workhorse. And so I did get a Vitamix. And so now I do recommend saving up and getting a Vitamix because it is, it's so nice. It's helpful. And we just got a blender bottle that's specific for grinding dry ingredients. And so we grind our own flours and different cornmeal and things like that. So which is helpful because we grow a lot of that stuff. So it makes that helpful. But great appliances, easy to use, and really helpful. Mary, what does a day of eating look like right now for you? And then also, if things were what they were and you were able to go to the grocery store all the time, what would that look like? So how about you start with what does a day of eating normally look like, and how has that changed to go through what a day of eating looks like now? And maybe it hasn't changed at all, or maybe it has changed a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, it looks pretty similar for me. A lot of mornings. So I will usually wake up and exercise. I'm a pure barre instructor and personal trainer. So I teach classes through Zoom actually. So that's pretty fun. And then I will either have like lemon water or celery juice. And then after that, I'll have my breakfast, which is typically like oats or smoothie, or there's this brand of cereal called Love Grown. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's super good, very clean ingredients, a good amount of protein for obviously being cereal. It's made from beans. So I thought that was awesome. So I'll top that with like fruit, and I'll add in like some complement protein powder for some extra protein in the almond milk. And so just a bunch of fruit, basically again, like fruit and starches for breakfast. And then for lunch, a lot of times I'll have like different types of like bean dips, so like different types of hummus and or ranch, and then just like a lot of vegetables, or a Buddha bowl, or a smoothie. So that's a lot of times what lunch looks like for me. Sometimes it's leftovers from the night before. And then for dinner, recently it's been a lot of like Buddha bowls and salads just full of vegetables. And then like some tofu on top. Some nights it's been pasta. One night I got a lot of energy and I was like, I'm going to make some zucchini lasagna. And so that took like 2 hours, but it was so good. So yeah, but it honestly has looked pretty much the same for me, normal versus now, which has been nice, I guess.
Sure. You know, as with the rest, everything else in the world going, you know, seeming going crazy, it's nice to be able to have some sort of normalcy. And I found
Was
that
it
to be
changed for you?
no, I've actually found it to be very similar for us as well. And again, we eat simply, and so maybe there's a few things that we couldn't find or that we're not going out, but we get all of our veggies pretty much from right outside my office on the farm, and then we, you know, our oats and potatoes, which we grow potatoes, but off-season stuff we'll get. But yeah, it stayed pretty simple, pretty similar. And I mentioned that in a post it might have been a week ago or so, that it has been nice with everything that's, and for us, it's been not that different because I work from home. My wife was already on maternity leave. So we were already kind of home, but with everything else in the world, just kind of being so much uncertainty and question marks around everything, it is nice to be able to sit down to a meal, a similar meal, a meal that you have enjoyed in the past, that you continue to enjoy, and have that sense of normalcy. And I know that's helpful to a lot of people who just are looking for a little bit of peace and comfort and quiet, and we can find that in a meal, and that's helpful. And Mary, this is probably something that has really changed in your life. You're normally an instructor, or you are an instructor for a bar, and what else?
And personal training.
And personal training. Okay. And so you're normally there with your client or there with your class, right? You're there with them. You're there cheering, you know, so now you're doing that via the internet.
Yes.
But what can, other than jumping on to your classes online, but what can our listeners be doing, right? I think it's really helpful for everyone to be doing some sort of exercise in this because, well, it's just helpful anyways. But if you're just sitting down on your couch watching Netflix 8 hours a day, you're not going to come out of this for the better. And so what are some exercises, some simple things that maybe everyone can do? You know, you don't have to, someone who's in their 60s who's just trying to regain their exercise. What are some simple things that we can all do to stay fit, to just keep active in this time of shelter in place, isolation, quarantine, whatever you want to call it?
Mm-hmm. So obviously one big thing, obviously you can go on a walk outside. Definitely make sure though that there's not heavy traffic, not a lot of people out, because you want to be able to maintain your social distancing. But definitely you can take a walk outside. One tip that I really like, especially when I was over employee wellness back in Atlanta, I would get them to try to stand up every 30 minutes or every hour and do some type of simple exercise. So that could be anything from like squats or getting up on like a desk or a wall and doing push-ups from there. I don't think I'd recommend sit-ups if you're at an office, but if you're at home, you can definitely do like 20 sit-ups. So anything from jumping jacks, sit-ups, push-ups, squats, just the basic things like every hour, just to get you standing up again and get your heart rate going.
No, that is helpful. You know, my grandpa, it was probably a month ago or so, he was having some leg problems, or he was getting tired, or restless legs, and I was asking him what he was doing, and he was like sitting all day. And so it was getting up and doing some squats, and he's feeling a lot better. So being active, just doing something. It doesn't have to be a lot of anything. It's just doing something to stay active in all this. And then when we get out of all this, we can go to plant-based Mary A, and she could be a personal trainer and push you to your next physical, you know, performance peaks. But right now we're just all trying to keep some sort of physical activity level, which is helpful and something that we're all trying to do. Mary, what are some tips as we're all going through? As you're someone who's coming up with recipes for plant-based eaters, you're also someone who is in the fitness field. What are some routines? What are just kind of last question today is, if I'm someone who's just finding myself, maybe I'm working from home, maybe I lost my job, maybe I'm just sitting at home watching Netflix 8 hours a day. What are some things that I can do dietarily, exercise-wise, just lifestyle-wise, that are going to keep me sane, but also maybe set me up so that when this is all over, we go back to normal, I can jump back in and get things rolling?
So as you said, so if you're sitting on Netflix for 8 hours or whatever, you can obviously go to Plant-Based Gabriel or go to different blogs and find some recipes that you really want to try. And I know it's hard to go to the grocery store right now. That's difficult. You can always like place an order online though. Really, or you can like look at pantry staples, find recipes of stuff that you already have in your pantry and make a healthy new meal, just one every week even, or one every day if you have all the time. Another thing is just, as we were saying earlier, just stay active, even if that means just like having a dance party with yourself, like just staying active and just having fun, making the best of the situation. Talking to friends and family, calling them, zooming them, FaceTiming, staying in touch with the people you love. That's huge for me, I know. Just making sure we show love to everybody and just not get so isolated in isolation.
Very good. No, those are great tips. And Mary, I know this has been a big help to all of our listeners. And I would implore everyone, go over to YouTube, Plant-Based Mary A, to Instagram, Mary_Allison, and check out her recipes. She's got some great things coming out. Has only been posting for about 5 months now. And so we're just getting going with the good stuff coming out. So it'll be exciting to see how the recipes continue to transform and how they continue to just keep rolling them out. It's an exciting time, right? We're all looking for better ways to better our health. And as someone who, like you, has regained my health, there's no better time to be adopting a healthy, whole foods, plant-based diet. And so everyone, I hope you truly enjoyed today's episode. If you did, well, make sure to let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. And until next time, I am Plant-Based Gabriel with Plant-Based Mary A. Thank you all. And if you haven't heard already, love you. And I'll see you in another video very, very soon.